So today when we're simplifying equations, the only thing that's different about these equations than the ones that we saw yesterday is that these equations will have decimals and fractions. Not that it's any more difficult, not that the rules are any different, it's just that there's more details to pay attention to. Okay, we practice that in the do now, looking at those fractions, looking at those decimals. We should be able to be successful here and now. So, looking at this problem, first thing we want to do, just like any other problem, is we want to first identify and look at each side of the equation and say to ourselves, Kip yes or Kip no. That should be a reminder to you that I want an answer here that's Kip yes or Kip no. Is this side of the equation simplified already? So if I'm waiting for you to respond, then you're wasting everybody's time. Kip yes or Kip no. Is this side of the equation already simplified? Okay, I see that you're all showing me yes, so that means we can move on and look at the other side. Kip yes or Kip no. Is this side of the equation simplified? Most of you are showing me yes, Maureen's showing me no, and Adriana is showing me kind of. Why kind of? We can leave chain switch. That actually doesn't simplify it, but that is a step that we are going to need in order to solve this, so let's go ahead and do it. With both sides simplified, that means the next step is to do what? Just like it was before. Before decimals were involved. After we get both simplified, what do we need to do, Manuel? Yeah, do an inverse operation to get our x's together. So what do we want to add to both sides here, Malcolm? Okay, so let's add a negative 5x to both sides and see what happens. Negative 5x plus 0.2x plus 4 is equal to 5x plus negative 5x plus negative 5. So 5x plus the negative 5x, that ends up being 0, leaving us just the negative 5 over here. Now on this side of the other side of the equation, the left-hand side of the equation, what do we need to do? Kenneth?
We need to subtract 5x from...
So we have to combine our like terms of 5x and 0.2x. The first thing we have to be thinking about here, we say a negative and a positive. Is that like signs add or opposite signs subtract? Opposite signs subtract. So we also have to be thinking to ourselves, well, which one is the larger number? Which one is larger, 5 or 0.2? 5. So what that means is that 5 should definitely go on the top of our subtraction. Now, when we add and subtract decimals, we have to line up the decimal points. Remember, on a decimal, a whole number, it goes there. So we have to fill in with a 0. We're having 5 minus 0.2. Borrow, 4.8. We already stated earlier that 5 was the larger number, which means we need to take its sign. 4.8 should be positive or negative, everybody. 4.8 should be positive or negative. Negative. 5 was the larger number, which means we should have that. Don't forget your x on the end. That's as far as we go. Oh well. That's as far as we go today. Tomorrow we'll solve it. Next problem. More decimals. This looks very intimidating, but it's not very intimidating. We know how to simplify this. First thing we need to do, just like any other equation, we're going to look at both sides and we're going to say, hey, are they simplified? If they're not, we'll simplify it. Kip yes or Kip no. Is this side of the equation simplified? If I'm waiting for your response, you're wasting my time. Not to mention your own, Brian. Brian, what are you saying no to? Thanks, Fernando. All right, so it's not simplified, Brian. What do we need to do to simplify it? Distribute. All right, so we start by distributing. We have a negative 0.3 times 2. 0.3 times 2. First of all, this is a bad date, so I should definitely end up with a negative on this distribution. Second of all, I have 6, but I need to pay attention to my decimal place. It's going to be negative 0.6 plus negative 0.3 times 3x. That's 3 times, again, this is a bad date, so I better get my negative over there. 9, decimal goes out in front, that's negative 0.9. I got my negative on there. Negative 0.9x. Don't forget that x. All right. Kip yes or kip no. Is this simplified? Thank you for the kip yes or kip no. Is this simplified? No, it is not. Maureen, what do we need to do to finish simplifying this? Yeah, so we have to combine our like terms. So it's the 0.6. I'm going to go ahead and commute it so I don't make any mistakes here. Negative 0.6 plus positive 0.25 plus negative 0.9x. All right, so I am adding negative 0.6 and 0.25, thinking to myself, is this opposite signs subtract or like signs add? Your lack of participation is wasting our time. Negative 0.6 plus 0.25, like signs add or opposite signs subtract? Opposite signs subtract, so we have to identify which one of these is larger, 0.6 or 0.25? 0.6, that's the same thing as 60 cents versus 25 cents. Which one's larger, 0.6 or 0.25? 0.6, 60 cents. Think about it as money, 0.60, 0.25. So we're opposite sign subtract, borrow. And I get 0.35. Take the sign of the larger number. Which one did we say was larger? 0.6, so our sign should be negative. Kip yes or kip no, is this now simplified? Okay, everybody stop giving an answer. Brian, kip yes or kip no, is this simplified?
No. Yeah. No, it's not.
Sorry, Brian, I didn't see that. That looked like a kind of a yes, no. Okay, what else can we do to simplify it, Brian? Nothing. Very good. That means your shaking of your hand was wrong, but your brain was right. This is simplified. Move on to the other side. Kip yes or kip no, is this side simplified?
No.
Kip yes or kip no, is this side simplified? If your name is Javier Sania, you're wasting our time because you're not giving me an answer. No, this is not simplified. Javier, what do we need to do to simplify this side? Sania, what do we need to do? There's a subtraction, so we got to leave chain switch, so it should be a negative 2.2x. So 3.3 and 2, like signs add or opposite signs subtract? Opposite signs subtract. Which one's bigger, 3.3 or 2? 3.3. I'd rather have $3.30 than $2. Oops. Is my work lined up correctly in order to do this subtraction? No, it is not. Need to line up the decimal points. 2 holes has a decimal point after it. So I should get 1.3. Take the sign of the larger number. Should my sign be negative or positive? Positive, good. So we can just leave it. Coming over here, 3.3 plus negative 4. Which one's larger, negative 4 or 3.3? Well, which one has a larger absolute value? 4. Take the sign of the larger number. Should my sign be positive or negative, Michael?
It should be negative.
Negative, because negative 4 was the larger of the two numbers.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You know how they say like the same species go together?
Yes.
Why did you use 3.3 and 2.0? Seems like the X and 3.3 doesn't.
We're looking at the other 3.3. There's actually 2 of them. So we want to bring that all the way down to our other simplified side. So 1.3x plus negative 0.7. All right, so we've got both sides simplified. That's step 1. Step 2 is to do what, Raisa? And how do I go about moving it to the other side? Yeah, add a negative. Use the additive inverse. Add a negative 1.3x to both sides. So I have negative 0.35 plus negative 1.3x plus negative 0.9x equals 1.3x plus negative 1.3x plus negative 0.7. Gone. Equals negative 0.7. And over here, what do I need to do to simplify the left-hand side of the equation? Jose? Add what? Yeah, the 2x terms. So that's negative 1.3 and negative 0.9. Like signs add or opposite signs subtract, Fernando? Like signs add. So we have negative 1.3 and 0.9. Line up the decimal points, and I get 2.2 x negative. Oops. Second time it's done that to me today, and we just lost some of the work. All right, I'm over it. I'm still over it. And so that's going to give me negative 0.35 plus 2.2x equals negative 0.7. Anybody wants to say anything about that? Everybody's happy with that answer? What's negative? Nobody wants to say anything about this? We're all happy with this? No. Rebecca? No. Take the sign of the larger number. I was trying to figure out what you were saying was negative. You said the answer, and that wasn't very clear to me. All right. So, decimals, no different than when we had integers yesterday. Let's move on to fractions. Do we think it's going to be any different? No. I mean, the addition and subtraction is going to be a little bit different, but the overall steps are the same. First thing we need to do is identify, are both sides of the equation simplified? Juan, is this side of the equation simplified? No, it is not. Juan, what do we need to do to simplify this side of the equation? Add 1/2 x to 3x. Combine our like terms here. So, in order to do this, though, we have to be very careful because we are adding 1/2 plus 3. How do I add 1/2 plus 3? Christopher.
0.5.
Could make it 0.5, but looks like I'm going to be dealing with other fractions. Maybe I want to leave it as a fraction.
You sure? Don't we use change that one?
Oh well.
It's 3/1 times 2/2.
3/1. And he wants to change it to have common denominators, which is an excellent idea. It's the only way you can add fractions. That's going to give me 7/2x. Plus -2. This side is now simplified. Yes, Malcolm?
Can you just show me 1/2x to 0.5x?
We just said that. He said they now do it way more without a fraction.
Excellent. So, moving on. We see that both sides are now simplified. What do we need to do? What do we need to do to finish simplifying this equation to a two-step equation? Sarah? Sorry, can you turn to me and say that? You were speaking away from me and I didn't quite hear it. Yeah, we need to get the x's together, and how are we going to do that, Sarah? Add a positive 3/4 to both sides. Excellent. 3/4 x plus 7/2 x plus -2 is equal to 3 plus -3/4 x plus 3/4 x. This cancels out, leaving us 3 over here. This -2 has nobody to combine with, nobody to dance with, so he's going to stay there. However, the two x's can combine. We have to be careful with that, though they are, again, fractions. 3/4 plus 7/2. Need to have what, Madeline? Common denominators times 2/2. That's going to give me 3/4 plus 14/4. It's going to give me 17/4. X. Any different with fractions?
No.
One more. Okay, what's the first thing we need to do, Maureen? So, I guess we're looking at the left-hand side and she says we need to distribute. What are we distributing? -1/4, because she did the leaf chain switch first, and you absolutely need to do that first. -1/4 distributes into 3x, so that's -1/4 times 3/1. All right, do I need to find common denominators here, Christopher? No, I do not, because we are multiplying. So we have top times top gives me a -3/4. 2x plus -3/4 x, and -1/4 times -8. -1/4 times -8. Good date or bad date, Kevin? Good date. So that's going to be positive 8/4. 8/4 is 2. Is this side simplified yet? Adriana, what do we need to do to simplify it? (2x plus -3/4 x). That's 2 plus -3/4. How am I going to do this addition? Adriana. 2 over 1. Still can't quite do this addition. Brian, what do I need to do to fix this so I can do this addition? Sorry, Fernando, what did you tell him? Fernando, what do we need to do? Find a common denominator. Eight fourths plus negative 3/4. That's going to give me 5/4 because it's opposite sign subtract. 5/4 x plus 2. Now we're simplified. On to the other side. What do we need to do to simplify this side of the equation? Katie. Then what? Three thirds plus negative 2/3 x. That's the same thing as 1 plus negative 2/3 x. Okay, next step. We've got both sides simplified. What do we need to do now, Fernando? Michael, what do we need to do next?
We need to make one of the edges to the other side.
And how do you want to do that?
But I don't know.
Okay, so what do you want to add to both sides?
Maybe 2 over 3. Wait, no, 5 over 4. Over to the
So what are we adding to both sides? We've already got negative 2 over 3. If I add negative 2/3 x over here, that's not going to cancel out. Positive 2 over 3. So 2/3 x plus 5/4 x plus 2 is equal to 1 plus 2 negative 2/3 x plus the positive 2/3 x that we added to both sides. This cancels out, leaving us with 1 plus 2. We have to add 2/3 x plus 5/4 x. 2/3 plus 5/4. Common denominators gives me 8 over 12 plus 15 over 12 gives me 23/12. X plus 1 is equal to 1. Questions? Quickly. Key points, what are they? No, because your will have already learned it. Key points. Why do she need to teach you something you've already learned? Okay. Key points. Adriana. Make sure both sides are most sides of the equations are simplified. Perfect. Second key point. Second key point. Manuel. Huh? Well, we should be doing that no matter what. That's a given. We learned that a year ago almost. Adriana. Yeah, get the x's, use inverse operations, or use additive inverse. To get x terms on the same side. X terms, how about we'll say together.